Bringing us back to the cheap stuff. Moving on to black. We've got our first black common here. Ravine Raider. Single black mana for a 1/1 lizard. It's got menace, and it's got the ability, 1 in a black, to give it +1/+1 until end of turn. You just do that as many times as you like.
Yeah, I think Lizards is going to be quite good, actually.
Yeah, surprisingly good. I was a little skeptical in the first few cards that were kind of trickling through as we saw cards coming, but more and more I'm like, hey, the enablers are there, the payoffs are good, and this is a pretty okay enabler.
Yeah, this is only really going in one deck, but the deck that wants it will take like multiple of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking forward to drafting Lizards, but I'm worried it might be like the boogeyman of the forward
Oh, you
of the
think
format.
so? Yeah, could be. Could be. Yeah, this is a respectable 1-drop. Will definitely trigger your whenever your opponent loses life pretty consistently early on. Just, mustering up 2 blockers in the early game is always possible if you're trying to race, and even if you're trying to block, like removal spell gets stuff out of the way. So card's pretty good.
Yeah, I think this is like a Lizard C+.
Yep, Lizard C+. I agree. You're gonna want to start your games on 1 with this thing. So I like it.
Mm-hmm.
A-Gates? Blade? Assassin? Not sure there. 1 in a black for a 1/3. It's a lizard assassin. When it attacks, defending player loses a life and you gain a life.
So this does dual purpose because it's Lizard and Bat enabler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it's going to be quite good in both, actually.
I'm being told it's agates, apparently. But yeah, totally agree. And this is just like a pretty good rate creature. Like it's effectively a 2/3 on attacks that guarantees the damage and gains you a life.
Yeah, yeah. Like if as long as you have any combat trick, like this thing's just going to be able to keep getting in turn after turn after turn.
Yeah, I really like it. Probably still just a C.
Yeah.
But it's a good C. It's a good C. It's instead of a not good C. Okay, cool. Next up, we got Bonebind Orator. This is 1 in a black for a 2/2 squirrel. It's got the ability 4 mana, 3 in a black. Exile it from your grave to return another creature from your graveyard to your hand.
So again, like the payoffs for self mill, it's looked like it'd be good, and there's just no self mill. They just forgot to put those cards in.
Yeah, it's a fine 2-drop. Like trade off, get a thing back for a lot of mana. Like usually even on a later turn, this is going to be your full turn almost. Yeah, lower.
So are you playing this outside of black green?
I don't think so. I think I would prefer not to. So that probably puts it at like even in black green, I don't think it's great.
Yeah, it's like a C in black green.
Yeah, everywhere else like a D range card. Because here's the thing too.
Yeah.
It even fights with itself a little bit in black green because this is taking 2 cards out of your graveyard that you might want to forage with, right?
That's so like a C- ceiling.
Yeah, it's really not great. All right, yeah, C-. I'll give it just a straight C- for the Orator.
Sure.
Saver. Here's an interesting one. Pretty good one. 1 in a black for an instant. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn, and you make a food token.
Nice. Yeah, this now we're talking.
Yeah, this is a solid removal spell. Solid plus.
Yeah, here's the type of cards you're happy to like first pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is this like a B or a B-?
Yeah, I was just gonna give it a B-. I think. I think that it's just gonna be good enough in the early game, like phenomenal in the early game, okay in the late game. I think that evens out to about a B-.
I'll go up to a B on this.
Okay.
I think it's really good. Like clean answer. Leave behind a food token. The food might even do more with your forage stuff. So
yeah, no, card's good. Daggerfang Duo. This is your enabler for your Threshold deck. 2 in a black for a 3/2 Death Touch Rat Squirrel. That's the Duo. And when it enters, you may mill 2 cards.
Yeah, this is the one scrap that they gave us. Yeah, this is the entire package right here.
And it's solid. I even say, I don't even know what I dare say, but even better than solid.
Would you say it's a good C or a bad C?
I would say it's probably a good C more than a bad C.
Yeah, so it's a C.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna know when you're gonna want this card. What's up next?
Next, we have Dire Sight. 2 and a black for a sorcery. Surveil 2, then draw 2 cards. You lose 2 life.
Okay, so it's another card that does support threshold. You ostensibly could get 3 cards in your grave from this and then draw 2.
Well, it's kind of supporting multiple things because it surveils, it loses you life on your turn for
True,
bats,
yeah.
but the rate on it is pretty bad,
Yeah, we
isn't
generally
it?
don't like 3 mana draw 2, lose 2.
Yeah, we just talked about like not wanting to play divination, and this is like, is the surveil 2 better than the lose 2 life? I don't think so. So then it's just like worse than divination?
Yeah, because I almost, when I saw this card, I thought it was more of a black white card than anything, because I think the biggest hurdle to jump through is stomaching that 2 life. But then you don't get as much of a bonus from the surveil 2.
Yeah, I want to give this like a D
Yeah,
plus.
I'm there too. D plus for
Okay.
Dire Sight.
Yeah.
Nocturnal Hunger. 2 and a black for an instant. Destroy target creature, but it's got a gift ability here, gift a food, and if the gift wasn't promised, you lose 2 life. Okay, so your aggro decks, just in the most simple terms, your aggro decks won't gift it, your control decks will gift it.
Well, also, if you're playing, like, you could be playing a control bat strategy and still
Sure.
want to lose your life.
Oh, true, yeah. And I think a really, like, the comparison here is murder. But like we mentioned earlier, not being double pipped is a big deal. So where
Yeah.
we were kind of like on murder and the pack, like fine, a removal spell, I'm higher on this by a good notch.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm still thinking this thing's like fine, but not decent. I was gonna give this like a C.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I do usually give murder a C. I was gonna give this a C plus.
Okay. I guess I think 2 life is a big deal if it's not something you want to be doing.
Well, but then you gift your opponent a food, and maybe I'm over confident in how negligible that will be to some decks.
Yeah, like anytime you give your opponent an object, it hurts,
Yeah,
which
it
is
sucks.
the whole point around the. I mean, there's
Of
the
course.
never gifter community that says you're never going to gift anything, but
I
I'm not
guess
there. But it is a real cost.
I guess all I'm saying is I think I rather lose 2 life rather than this be double pipped. That's my main thing that I like about the card.
Okay,
Yeah.
I slightly disagree. Like, I think there's going to be enough decks that are straight 2 color that it wouldn't have been as hard to hit 2 pips in this set, but
Okay.
we'll see.
But no, that's my point though. Even in 2 color decks, I think that's like a pretty tangible downside of murder. But yeah, like I
It
said,
is.
we'll see.
Yes.
Psychic Whirl. This is 2 and a black for a sorcery. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Then if you control a rat, you surveil 2. More mill sort of on not great effects.
And they all cost 3 mana.
I know.
Like,
Yeah,
where's the
really.
curve?
Man. Exceptional art, once again, but I gotta give this a D. D minus even.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give it a D plus.
Okay.
I think
Yeah, I'll stay with the D.
Okay, but yeah.
Scale of Shale. Scales of Shale. 2 and a black for an instant. It costs 1 less for each lizard you control. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains lifelink and indestructible until end of turn.
Yeah, so I said every color had a 1 mana combat trick.
You
and
lied!
This was black's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
And this thing is a banger.
This one's great. Yeah, indestructible +2 and lifelink. That is so much.
Like, you're fine paying 2 mana for this, I think.
Yeah.
3, you don't want to pay, which means
No.
it goes to the lizard deck, which is like a good thing. 2 is fine, and 1 mana is incredible on this.
And unlike some decks, your lizard decks are going to want to be, I would say, lower curve than other decks. Like, you're going to start with a 1 on your lizard decks if you can, ideally, where that might not always be the case for, like, your rat deck. So this discount is going to happen a little more often in this deck than a discount might in some other deck.
Yeah, like, you just saw the common curve of, like, 1-drop menace into 2-drop drain. And this is already costing... Even if they spend a removal spell on something, you could probably play, like, a lizard and leave this up on turn 3.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna go back and forth between a C or a C plus here. Which one do you want to land on?
In lizards, I think this is a B
Yeah,
minus.
yeah. Okay, that's a fair way to put it too. Yeah, I will go with the consistency of what we've been doing lately, and I'll join you there just to say you understand where this card goes, and if you play it somewhere else, you have to grade it lower. So I'll join you at that B minus because I agree that's the ceiling of the card. Really nice one though.
Yeah, like so good. This is the card that single handedly makes, because especially on your menace creature,
Yeah.
like if they have a double block and you're just like, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna kill both your creatures, gain a ton of life, and like I can pump extra mana into it as well. So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, nice. All right, what do we have next?
Next we have Starlit Soothsayer, 2 and a black for a 2/2 bat. It has flying, of course. And at the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, surveil 1.
Eh,
Yeah,
whatever.
very.
Yeah, there was a very
There's a
similar.
graveyard, but no, it doesn't. It's
Yeah,
just another
it's
2 drop.
exactly. This is the there was a card like this in LCI too, I think, right? And that card was with the Phantom, like when you attack, you mill a card or something.
Yeah.
That card is pretty bad. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give Starlight Soothsayer a D, maybe.
D, I'm with you
Yeah.
on D. Yeah.
Thorn Plate Intimidator. Here's a cool one. 3 and a black for a 4/3 Rat Rogue. It's got Offspring for 3 mana, so either 4 mana or 7 mana. And when it enters, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sack a non-land permanent or discard a card.
So we've agreed on very similar grades throughout the whole set, which partly is because the complexity of this set's lower, but we may disagree on this card.
Okay. I was gonna
So
give.
why don't I'll let you go first and give your grade.
Yeah, I was gonna. Let me just talk out my grade before I give it. I was gonna give this an above average grade. I think that the Offspring plays particularly well because this effect gets better the more time you do it, just giving your opponent fewer and fewer choices. Like it's a fine into the battlefield effect. I like it. I was gonna give it a C plus, but I wonder if like that's way, considering you started with something. I wonder if you're going way lower or way higher than me.
No, I thought you weren't going to like this card, maybe. I thought there was potential, and I
Oh.
basically 100% agree with you.
Oh
So
yeah, nice.
boring. But I like this in any black
Yeah,
deck.
me
Like
too.
the default on this is 4/3. Probably they lose 3 life ETB, which is great. And then if you ever pay the Offspring mana on this, your
Punishing.
opponent's just gonna like slump in their chair.
Yeah, because if you haven't played against this effect before, and it's something we see just from time to time, that like they get the choice of 3 things: either lose, discard a card, or sack a permanent, non-land permanent, notably. It's not like the most backbreaking thing in the world, but just one trigger is like, oh man, that's annoying. And so any amount of, and like I mentioned, anytime you get to do it multiple times, it gets more annoying. So imagine just having multiple copies of this, or getting to 7 mana, or buying this back, or I think there's other cards in the set that do this exact same thing. So yeah, I think it's just a generically good card.
Yep.
Cool. C plus for the Intimidator.
Yep.
Cool.
I'm with you there.
Early Winter. This is 4 and a black for an instant, and you choose one. You either exile target creature or target opponent exiles an enchantment they control.
Wow, is this thing overcosted?
Yeah, it's the catch-all clunky removal spell. Usually, I guess this is because black's got 2 good cheap removal spells, right? It's not like this is black's removal spell and we have just to work with this. Black gets 2 other really good, or at least pretty good removal spells.
There's -2/-2. What's the other one?
The one that we kind of went back and forth on. You liked a little bit less than I did. The murder
Oh yeah,
variant.
that's right.
Yeah.
There's 2 life one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, overcosted, especially in a set where curves are going to start on 1. It's going to be aggressive in the sense that if you're not affecting the board early, you're going to fall behind. I would probably give Early Winter a D. D plus,
I wrote
maybe.
down D for. I already wrote down D for both of us, so it's too late.
Nice. Ooh, this one though I do like. Glide Dive Duo. 5 mana, 4 and a black for a 3/3 Bat Lizard. That is the duo. It's a 3/3 flyer, and when it enters, you drain your opponent for 2. They lose 2, you gain 2.
Yeah.
Nice.
The trigger is both. I think even in the other black decks you'll play this, but it's going to be pretty good in black white and black red.
Yeah, I think this is just a good card. Like the last creature we saw. I'm pretty happy just with this in any deck. Like you mentioned, it gets better in some places, but this is a comparison from a different time at this point. But Ravnica Allegiance had this card as a gold common, and that was one of the best commons in the set. So we're obviously dealing with different power level now, but I still think this card's going to be solid, and I would give this a C+. I think it gets to that range.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Awesome.
I mean, you can't play too many 5-drops,
Yep.
but this is one I'm happy to play.
Bone Cash Overseer. This one's really interesting. It's one that's seen some back and forth on. Single black mana for a 1/1 squirrel at uncommon. We're at the uncommons now. Tap, pay a life, draw a card. Okay, that's good, but you can only activate this if there are if 3 or more cards have left your graveyard this turn, or if you've sacked a food. So essentially, if you foraged.
Yeah, so only goes in one deck, but is pretty free to hop into the curve at some point there, and then kind of threatens to take over the game, I think.
Yeah, we mentioned
I'm more on the good side than the bad side of this.
Me too. We mentioned there's not a lot of when you forage do a thing, but this basically is that. So that does count for, if you just have a thing sitting around that lets you forage, that'll help you with this. Yeah.
Well, you don't like it is paying off for forage, but you don't have to forage to trigger this. You can just attack a food.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the card's good too. This is another thing you want to check your counts for, and I think you need to have probably like 6-7 ways to trigger this. Because if you draw your card once, you're happy, right? That's the thing. So if it's a 1-mana 1/1 that draws a card once, you're happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are in that range, and of course it scales the more you have, I think it's a pretty good card. It does deserve a
synergy grade?
Yes, I would give it a synergy B-.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Cool. Ruthless Negotiation, another interesting one. Single black mana for a sorcery. Target opponent exiles a card from their hand. If this spell was cast from the graveyard, though, you draw a card. It's got flashback for 5 whole mana, 4 to black.
Yeah, I don't think I like this.
Yeah, it feels like it's just more planted things for the threshold deck that
doesn't exist.
Yeah, you want to mill this rather than cast both sides of it necessarily.
Funnily enough, like this would be decent if it was like a blue or a red card because of the prowess triggers.
Single mana.
Like it's a cheap prowess card.
Yeah.
But I'm not like exiling is nice. Making both players mulligan, where you have to spend a mana, is okay. But there's gonna be times where this is dead. Like there's no clause of if they don't discard, you draw or whatever. So
it is a 3-for-1. The clunky 3-for-1, but
yeah, for 6 mana.
Yeah.
And of their choice for multiple of those.
I think this might be one that once you see it played, you get a better sense of how much you like it or dislike it.
Yeah, I'm gonna start this as a D+.
Yep, that's exactly where I was gonna go too. I can see this one moving around though, but I'll also join on D+ for Ruthless Negotiation. Bandit's Talent is up next. This is 1 black for a class. It says when it enters, each opponent discards 2 cards unless they discard a non-land card. So effectively, they either discard a non-land or 2 lands. Level 2, single black mana to level it up. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 1 or fewer cards in hand, they lose 2 life. Level 4, level up for 4. Level 3, level up for 4 mana, 3 and a black. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card for each opponent who has 1 or fewer cards in hand. Huh.
I find this one very difficult to analyze.
So it's almost like there's some like discard matters things in some way in this set, because the more discard you have, the better your next discard stuff gets, because they have worse choices of what to discard until you reach a certain point where they're empty-handed, then it doesn't do anything. Right. But I wonder if this is a card that you don't want to play on your own. I mean, I think almost certainly you don't want to play it on its own. But then if you do have, let's say, 4 or 5 of those other cards that make them sack or discard or pay 3, or the last card we just looked at, then it becomes something interesting.
Yeah, like this is always gonna hit something. So I guess the question is, what turn do you want to play this?
Hmm. Probably not on 2.
Right, because you're gonna fall too far behind. So it's like turn 4 or 5.
Yeah, and then you level it up right away, and eh. Yeah, I'm more out on this card than into it, but I don't want to just give it an F, I guess is what I'm getting at.
No, no, I was higher on it than that. I'm between like D plus and C minus, and I was thinking of going to the C minus grade.
Okay. Yeah, this is a really interesting one. They don't there's not too many cards that we've seen so far that's really have stumped us, but this one's just like you said. I think I'm having a hard time really putting a grade on it. I don't even know if I would have given it a C minus, um, just like straight up. Like I'm trying to think of what I would give independent of your grade, as we often usually do. I think I was gonna give it just a build around grade in the same line of thinking that I was saying, where you do need other discard for it to be something you ever want.
Okay, sure. So,
I guess synergy, because not really building around it. I'm gonna give it a synergy C, which is not far off of what you gave it.
okay.
But I'm excited to come back to this one because we could be totally wrong
Yeah,
in
yeah.
either direction.
The first time you see this in cast, you're gonna know whether it feels good or feels bad.
Yeah, I'm almost giving him a like. You know what? I'm gonna give it a hot take C plus. I'm really going out there, Chad. I know we're giving it a really different grade than I just gave it a second ago. But put me down for the synergy C plus. I think I have some faith in this one.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, Feed the Cycle is up next. Another removal spell. 1 and a black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this, you either forage or pay black. Destroy target creature or planeswalker.
So there we go. Here's the murder.
Nice. Yeah, literally it's just murder with a bit of upside.
Yeah, it's murder with a little bit of upside.
Okay, it's good. Nothing bad to say about this card.
Yeah, the forage on this is nice. It's interesting that like some decks you'll want less forage cards because the first time you exile 3 cards from your graveyard is going to be the easiest to do, and then after that it gets a lot harder. And then some decks you're just going to want a lot of forage because that's kind of the whole thing you're doing, and you got a bunch of rewards for doing it, and you've maybe got a lot of food to feed that. But I think like if you just play this in any black deck, like it doesn't need to be black green, and it might almost be better in the non green black decks.
Yeah, sort of seems murderous cutty in some
Yeah.
ways, right?
Well, yeah, because
Yeah,
it's five cards plus mana, so that makes sense.
and really good. I would give Feed the Cycle a B plus.
B
I
plus.
think so.
Ooh. Ooh.
Like you've got, if you pay the cost, which is not, like you said, in some decks not going to be that big of a cost at all because you don't care about your grave. It's going to be like 2 mana kill a thing, straight up, no life loss,
Okay.
no condition. Although,
Yeah.
you know what, I dial that back a little bit immediately, because being able to kill a 2 when you have a slowish hand is a big deal on those kind of cards. So maybe I'll dial
I wrote
myself
down
back
B
to
minus
B.
for myself. I'll let you say whatever you want.
Sorry, I you cut out again. That's my bad. 1 second. Check. Give me a check.
Check. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, sometimes I just jostle my input here a little bit. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Say what you said again.
I just wrote down B minus for myself. So
Okay.
if you want to be a B plus, that's
No, I'll give it a B. I'll give Feed the Cycle a B. But it's good.
okay.
Fell. Here's another removal spell that costs 2 mana. 1 and a black for a sorcery. Destroy target creature. Simple. It's just it's a sorcery speed murder.
Yeah, is this better or worse than the last card?
I think worse. I think sorcery versus instant is huge.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it the exact same grade as the last one. I'm gonna give it another B minus.
I will join you at B minus, but I guess I like the last card a little bit better.
Okay.
Okay.
You give last one a B, so it makes sense for you.
Yeah, that is fair. All right.
Yeah.
I'll give you a particularly wordy card. What's up next?
Persistent Marshstalker. 1 and a black for a 3/1 rat. It gets +1/+0 for each other rat you control. And as long as you have threshold, whenever you attack with one or more rats, you can pay 2 and a black to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking.
That's a nice one. Wow. So, again, it's another card that's like not blue-black slow down the game threshold control. It's like kind of a little more aggressively slanted, which is a little odd.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. It's like, what? Yeah, I don't know what blue-black is doing in this set.
Card is very strong, though. It's
Well, it's
just,
just a 3/1 for 2 with upside.
yeah. It's like, it's going to be attacking as a 4/1 on turn 3 sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Think was back. Yeah, card's just pretty good. Obviously I could ding it a bit for it being what we assume to be slightly unsupported. But I'm gonna give Persistent Marshstalker a B-.
A B-. I'm just gonna go C+.
Okay.
I think it's not gonna come back that often.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Stargaze is an interesting one to evaluate. X black for sorcery. Look at twice X cards in the top of your library. You can put X cards from among them into your hand, the rest in the graveyard, and you lose X life.
So this is probably the best threshold enabler in blue-black.
Right, which is kind of funny because it's I think supposed to be a little more of a black-white card.
Right, because you lose the life and like it's costing you. I mean, losing life is gonna hurt on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it's that good. I
No.
just think it's a good threshold enabler.
Yeah, you're basically gonna get threshold when you cast it for 5 or 6, if that's what you do.
Right. I mean, this thing sucks for 3 mana. It still sucks for 4 mana, right? 4 mana
Passable.
is basically the same as the instant blue card. Like,
Yeah.
it's basically kind of scry 2, draw 2, a little bit better than that, but you lose 2 life. And then like 5 mana, I guess, is where you want to play it, where you look at 6 cards, you get to keep 3 of them, and you lose 3. But I was already talking down the draw 3 blue that you didn't lose any life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think the thing's unplayable, but
No.
you need a lot of life gain to support this, so that you have to be able to be sure you can cast this for a good chunk without dying.
A lot of life gain, a lot of removal. You know, the classic control deck cards. And like you said, even when you're there, it's not phenomenal. So I'm gonna give Stargaze like a synergy C-, basically.
Okay, I wrote down D+ for myself.
Yeah. Somebody in chat saying scry 2, draw 2, put 3 in the graveyard sounds fine, just fine. I don't think so. I think that is not a good exchange most of the time. Like, that's a lot of mana, and the 2 life really hurts. So yeah.
And double black, like it's
Starscape Cleric up next. 1 and a black for a 2/1 flyer. It can't block. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Also has Offspring for 2 and a black.
Yeah, Vampire Interloper got a glow up.
Yeah, real glow up.
Mm-hmm.
And Vampire Interloper really needed it because Vampire Interloper sucked.
Right. So is this beyond the realm of sucking?
Yes, but how much beyond that realm? It's still, I think if it turned around, it would still see the realm of sucking. Funny, it's a bat. Good joke, Alex.
Almost...
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, I missed your joke initially.
So did I.
The bat deck, it seems like it's more controlling to me.
That's my thought too. And can't block is just terrible line of text unless you're purely aggressive.
Yeah, maybe a couple of these starts to push you more towards the aggressive side. But if you are draining, it's through life gain, and so like your life gain cards don't go in the deck that's trying to kill your opponent as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think this card's not great.
No, I think so too. I think maybe it's like a lizard card even. That you happen to have some of the black cards that just gain some life. But if you're a lizard deck, I actually think it's a fine card.
Yeah, that's true, because you also have the 2-drop lizard that like drains 1 on attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point you're hitting them for an extra 2.
And I could see some black-white decks that end up being more aggressively slanted. That's certainly something. So it's our hesitation here is more just doesn't generically belong everywhere. I can see it belonging. Let's just, as we have been doing, talk about where it belong or where the grade it would get if it's like this is the deck for it. And I think it's actually pretty good in those decks because the red black decks, it's an early Bloodthirst enabler. It drains it's not gated to once per turn too. So if you do have multiple instances of life gain, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, and the offspring, it can just like kill somebody sometimes. But
Okay.
like in black red, it's still just like what, like a C minus?
Yeah, I was gonna give it a C. I think I've talked myself up from the D range, which I was initially gonna give it.
Yeah, I was starting on a D as well, and I've
Okay.
moved up to C minus.
Okay.
I'll let you stay on a C.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Consumed by Greed is up next. 1 black for an instant. Target opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. And the gift ability is gift a card. If a gift was promised, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is kind of the example of when I say this is a skill testing mechanic, you have to ask yourself, is the card I'm getting back from my graveyard better than the average random card from my opponent's deck? And that's a very difficult question to answer because there's a lot of unknown variables there.
Yeah, because it's very easy to convince yourself that it could be a land on top of their deck, but you're getting them one card closer to seeing every card in their deck from that point. Like it's almost a cascading effect. So you need the creature to be better than just like a random piece of cardboard.
Now, let's just talk about the effect. 3 mana, they sack their biggest thing. That effect's generally pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And instant too.
Instant too, yeah. I like it. I like it more than I don't like it, basically.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this like a C plus. Are you higher than that?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm more in the B minus. Like I think the baseline of this ability I like a little bit more than a C plus. Like I would just give. We had this effect at rare with not a double black mana pip, and that was like a B minus level card. So the option of getting back something at the cost of black, I think bumps it up to B minus for me. So yeah, I will start on B minus for this card.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, what do we have next?
Moonstone Harbinger, 2 and a black for a 1/3 bat. It has flying and death touch, and whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, bats you control get +1/+0 and gain death touch until end of turn. This ability only triggers once each turn.
Okay. So death touch bats is kind of weird because they'll be flying. So it's not like it's going to be like a really giant thing for your opponent to wrestle with. Like, oh, do I block or not? Do they have the life gain? On blocks?
Oh, I mean, you have the changelings too. I'll keep saying this.
Changelings, yeah, good point. You do have the changelings. We haven't seen too many ways to gain life at instant speed, I don't think. So you're not doing this on blocks all that often.
Well, there's food.
There is food. Yeah, that's a good point. I actually forgot about food. Okay.
There's also like the bat deal 4, gain 3.
Yeah.
There's
some stuff.
There's enough.
No, you're right. There's some stuff in there.
But also just triggering this in your pre-combat like turns this thing into a 2/3, and all the other stuff gets bigger. I think this thing's like okay without being great.
Sorry, chat's pointing out something very important is that I said the words, but then I didn't take in the words. It says during your turn, so this is only a on your turn kind of thing, only on attacks.
Oh yeah. So, yeah, okay, yeah. It's during your turn, but it can still be done at instant speed. I think this thing's just okay.
Yeah, just okay is where I would land too. Like it's a fine blocker, and I think most of the time you're just looking at this as like a really good blocker, and sometimes you're like, oh okay, like I get to kill them over the course of 2 turns. I see a line to doing that, so it's fine. I would give Moonstone Harbinger a C.
See, I wrote down C minus.
Okay, fair enough. Thought Stalker Warlock. Oh man, this card. 2 and a black for a 2/2 Lizard Warlock. It's got menace too. When it enters the battlefield, choose target opponent. If they lost life this turn, reveal their hand. You get to choose a non-land card from it. They discard that card. Otherwise, they just discard a card. So, in plain English, if you have dealt them damage, you get to thought seize them. Look at their hand, take a card. If not, they just discard a card.
Yeah, this I don't know if we need to talk this card much because I think it's just obviously extremely good.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it a B plus.
I was gonna do that too. Yep, it's gonna be so backbreaking when you get to thought seize them, and I think it's gonna happen quite a bit. So yeah, okay. Downwind Ambusher. Here's an interesting one. 3 and a black for a 4/2 flash. Choose one when it enters. Either target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn, or destroy target creature an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn.
I want you to grade this card first because this may be one that we have a disagreement on.
Okay. I was gonna give this one a C plus. I think it's pretty good, but maybe even a bit higher actually, because there's a lot of.
I was so ready for you to lock in your C plus, and then I was
Okay.
gonna be like, I'm higher on this thing.
I was gonna say there's a lot of excellence in this set, especially with Offspring, which does matter. Yeah, I think readjusting here. I think it's a B minus, and I wonder if you could go even higher, or B minus is right where we stand.
I was gonna go up to a B for this.
Okay.
I think it's really good. Like,
Yeah, it's good.
often the downside with creatures that only kill a damaged creature is that they only work in like the like after damage, right? Like so post combat basically. So even those effects are sometimes still playable because just finishing off a creature is already good enough, but they're just so awkward because sometimes you need to block with it or you need to, do something before the combat actually happens to survive. This thing can either just kill something straight up or it can just make their combat like a nightmare. Like if you flash this in and shrink one of their 2-power creatures, you just get to eat it.
Yeah, no, totally right. Okay, yeah, I like the B. I think I'm gonna come with to a B on this one.
Yeah, I think this card's super sweet.
Yeah, cool.
And I love the flavor on it too. The downwind ambusher being the skunk.
Yeah, very stinky. I actually look. That's a hint, right? That's a hint that the card's good because it doesn't have a relevant creature type. Boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Next up is Hazel's Nocturne. 3 and a black for an instant. Return up to 2 target creatures from your graveyard to your hand. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life.
This card seems interesting.
Yeah.
What deck does this go in? Because I have no clue.
I almost think any deck. Like I would be surprised if there's a black deck that doesn't want this.
Maybe black red.
Sure, but even then,
it still like loses 2 life for them though.
Yeah. Instant's also relevant on this kind of effect. Usually we see this as sorcery, and the times we've seen it at instant, it's been a pretty big deal. Like just at the end of turn, going like, all right, trades happen, then I buy my stuff back and I recast it that turn. And yes, you're not affecting the board, but the drain matters. Also, the drain matters for synergy purposes for black white. So I'm noting all these things. I still don't think it's a fantastic card, but better than these kind of cards generally are. I would give Hazel's Nocturne a C plus.
C plus? I wrote down C for myself, which I think I'm going to stick with.
Yeah, sounds good. Sinister Monolith up next. This is 3 and a black for an artifact. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Also has the ability tap it and pay 2 life to sacrifice the monolith and draw 2 cards. Activate only as a sorcery.
This card's kind of sweet. Like often cards like this trigger on your upkeep, so you don't get the drain right away.
Right away.
This one triggers combat, so you can even just like play it, drain 1, and then post combat sacrifice it.
True. Yeah. Then it's just like
you just need to find the cards.
Pay 1. Yeah. Pay 1, draw 2 cards. Not.
Yeah. Each player loses 1 life. You draw 2 cards, which is not great, but not totally unplayable. And then the upside of this is if you can leave it around for a bunch of turns, it could just win the game. The weird thing is, like, if this is winning the game for you, you're never going to want to sacrifice it.
Yeah, you're only sacking it when you already kind of need to dig for stuff, and then you might not like paying the 2 life.
Yeah, and I think it's often going to be that by the time you sacrifice this, you're going to have thought, I should have sacrificed it like 2 turns ago.
Yeah, that's funny. It is very, very good for... Well, I was going to say very, very good for the black-white decks that just triggers all your stuff each turn, but If you've got a good black-white deck, you probably have other things that are going to trigger your things. Then again, some of the black-white payoffs are not gated to once per turn, so you do care about multiple instances. So I go back on
But
them.
in
It
the
is,
black red deck, it works too, right? Like
yeah.
this is just a draw engine with the red black uncommon.
Hmm. I I I do still think it's a black-white card, and I guess maybe a black-red card, but I'm more skeptical about that card there.
Yeah, I think it'll be at its best in black white. I agree with you there.
Okay. So what shall we
Because like
give this?
casting this into the black white uncommon, like
Mm-hmm.
the signpost one, that's gonna be pretty strong.
That is nice, yeah. I think I'm gonna just lean on like an average C, recognizing there
Yeah,
are decks that it's gonna be better in, but not. I don't think this card is amazing even in the deck that it goes in. Basically, it's just
yeah.
solid.
I think like ceiling C sounds good to me.
Okay, Wix Patrol up next. This is 4 black for a 5/3 rat. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards.
No way.
But it's a 6-mana card. When you do, target creature and opponent controls gets -X until on a turn where X is the greatest mana value among cards in your grave.
So surely the card that mills will be a reward for the blue black drafter that only the blue black decks will want, right?
Yeah, nobody else is gonna
Surely.
want this Flame Tongue Kavu. Nobody likes those.
Yeah, like what the every deck's gonna want. This card's great.
Is the
Notably, you mill 3 before the second trigger goes on, so you get to see what the mana value is before you have to choose your target.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. So yeah, good to see that.
Yeah.
Pretty good. You want to give this a B?
Yes, I
Cool.
think B is exactly where I want to put this.
B for Wix Patrol, which brings us to our last black uncommon here, Husk Burster Swarm. Pretty gnarly art. 7 and a black, 8 mana for a 6/6 Death Touch Menace. But it says this card, the spell cast will not cast for each creature card you own in exile or in your graveyard.
Yeah, so nice that it works with both Threshold and Scavenge doesn't punish you necessarily for it.
Yeah.
And that's a big Menace Death Touch is a nice combo.
It's a good combo, especially on a 6/6. Yeah, this does not get blocked profitably basically ever.
Yeah, we saw Writhing Necromass in DMU, which had more support for it, but was a smaller creature with only one of the abilities. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I do too. I would give this I think a C plus. I don't think it goes too much higher than that.
Yeah, C plus is the same for me.
All right, and the black. Thoughts on black? Besides, where are the enablers?
Right. So it's like blue black seems like the odd one out because black white, I think there's lots of support, although it's harder to build. So I don't expect black white's gonna be like the #1 deck in the format or anything. But red black, the cheap commons seem really good. A lot of the uncommons seem really strong, and then green black. Not a ton of support for green black, but I think green supports green black quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I would agree with those thoughts. It's I think it's a pretty good grindy color. Like I think that it's got a lot of removal and pretty good removal, and it's got value creatures too. Yeah, I'm pretty into his black's offering.
I wouldn't be surprised if you start black in a lot of drafts, just because there's so many like removal spells that'll go in basically any deck. So
yeah, sweet. And I am excited to see just how to solve the black-blue puzzle, because I think that is something that will come together eventually. But that's going to move us on to red. And red, going back to the commons here, we've got Might of the Meek. Single red mana for an instant. Target creature gains trample until end of turn. It also gets +1/+0 until the end of turn if you control a mouse. And you draw a card. Very important there.
Yeah, so notably you don't need to target a mouse. You just need to have a mouse.
Can also target your opponent's stuff too. I mean, that's relevant for these cantrips on turn 1.
Are you playing this in non-mice decks, though?
I think blue-red. Like a cantrip.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe in blue-red. I think it's a maybe in blue-red, but I think it's more of a red-white card.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And it's a good one. Like just a cantripping Valiant trigger. That's going to be something you want.
Yeah. Yeah, so it goes in probably 2 decks,
Yeah.
but so we'll give it the ceiling, the red white grade. What do you want to give it there?
I think it's still just a C there. I don't think it's anything too much more, but yeah.
I think it's a C plus in red white.
Yeah.
Isn't this like the best?
The best targeting thing.
Value
Yeah,
card?
no, you may when you put in those terms, that could be true. Okay, I'll join you. Yeah, C plus for Might of the
Okay.
Meek. Very similar card. War Squeak up next. Single red mana for an aura, enchant creature. When War Squeak enters the battlefield, target creature and opponent controls can't block this turn. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. I say similar card because it's also a Valiant enabler.
Much worse though.
Much worse. Not drawing a card. Sometimes this effect like doesn't actually help your attack as much as you would like. Like if the board is stalled out, this card is really terrible in ways that other cards aren't. Like even if you just draw another creature that helps you go wide, this might not do that if the board is a certain way.
Yeah, especially in a set with so many tokens.
Yeah, this is a really it's a solid card if you're super low to the ground, mostly like a mono red or monocolor aggro deck. I guess it'd have to be red because it's mono red. It becomes a playable card there, but I think there are going to be some Valiant decks that are slightly more mid-rangey, like still attacking, but not to the level of like, oh, I want this card. I think you can play this card if you're all in. Yes, and it is Hammer Hand, by the way. It's a Hammer Hand functional reprint for those in chat asking. And that card was kind of the same. You only really want to put that in like your most aggressive decks. So I'll start on as a D for War Squeak, but
Yeah, I'm on D as well.
yeah.
My goal is to not play this card.
Yeah. I used to be a lot higher on this kind of card, but I think we've seen it a time or two, and it's always underperformed in those recent times. Raccoon Rallier up next. 1 and a red for a Raccoon. It's a 2/2. Has the ability tap, target creature you control gains haste until end of turn, and to make things not annoying on Arena, it's only activated as a sorcery.
Yeah, not thrilled with this. I think the only time you're going to want it is if you care about its types.
Yeah, and worth noting that it's only really good if you have very large creatures. Like this is a Raccoon card through and through as a red-green card, because if you're tapping to give a 3/3 haste, you're not accomplishing that much because this is just a if you're for a more extreme example, if you're tapping to give a 2/2 haste, well, it doesn't do anything because you could have just attacked with this. So you really need to be pumping out a 5/5 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just going to give this a D plus in red green.
It does trigger your Valiance. That is something. But I don't think that moves the needle too much, so I will also just give it a D plus.
Okay.
All right, what's next?
Next we have Sazakap's Brew. 1 and a red for an instant. You can gift a tapped fish. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. Target player draws 2 cards. If the gift was promised, target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn.
It's pretty sweet. Nice
little...
little...
Yeah, I like this card.
Yeah.
I think you're going to gift with this quite a bit.
Me too. Because I think what you're gonna get out of it is winning a combat, or not one that you weren't gonna, not one where your creature would have died, but a 2/3 blocks your 2/3, for example, or you trigger your Valiant and that wins a lot more combats, or get a good effect. I guess that's the thing. If you consider Valiant as part of the equation here, you're often getting an effect that is quite a bit better than giving your opponent a fish.
I also see this like this is a real good deterrent, because if you just leave like a small creature back and they attack their big thing into it, then you're just threatening that, hey, yeah, I'm gonna draw my cards, and I'm also gonna trade up with your creature. And
yeah.
So I just really like the threat of this thing.
I think the best version of this effect we've seen has been the one from Wilds of Eldraine, Mark of the Witch, maybe it was called, and that was a sorcery.
Bitter Reunion was also really good.
Oh, true, Bitter Reunion was also good. This is an instant, and we like the Witch's Mark. Thank you, chat. This one's an instant, and we like the effect, the text box a lot. So I think those 2 cards were about C-level cards. The ones that don't have bonuses, usually in the D range. I think I'm going to give Sazakap's Brew a C.
Yeah, I think C is fair. Notably, it's also nice that it targets the player. So if they do kill your creature in response to the +2/+2, you still draw the 2 cards.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Next up, we've got Steam Path Charger. 1 in a red for a 2/1 lizard. It's got Offspring for 2 mana. And when it dies, it deals 1 damage to target player.
This thing's fine in lizards.
Fine. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a way to make sure you trigger your stuff and not much more. I think I'd get like a C-. Maybe just a C.
I was gonna go
Yeah,
see it.
just
It's
a C.
also like, notably, we're into the red cards now, so this is a way to expend 4.
Yeah,
on
that
your-
is a good
on your
point.
2-drop.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so your 2-drops can also expend 4, which is a nice bonus.
Yep, I like the C.
Okay.
Take out the trash. This is our red good removal spell. 1 in a red for an instant. It deals 3 to target creature or planeswalker, and if you have a raccoon, you can discard a card, and if you do, draw a card.
Yeah, so I talked about this when we were doing the gold cards, but so many of the raccoon cards are just not going to end up in the lap of the red
The raccoon player? Yeah, this is just going to everybody that's playing red.
Yeah, it's a nice benefit when you have a raccoon, but any red deck will be happy to play this.
Yep. B?
B. I wasn't gonna go. I'll go B minus.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Like, do you think this is? You think this is better than the various murders that we saw?
Probably not better than the black one. I think probably about on par with the. Well, I'm sorry, they're all black, but on par with the 2-mana one. The -2 make a food.
Oh, but like all the uncommon ones, like
the uncommon ones.
you
No,
gave those B minuses.
that's
as
true.
well,
No,
so-
you got a good point. So I'll give that a B minus. This B minus then.
Okay.
Yeah. Whisker Quill Scribe is up next. 1 in a red for a 2/2. It's got a it's a mouse, and it's got a valiant ability to discard a card, and if you do, draw a card.
Yeah, solid. In the mouse deck, like nothing special. I think
Mhm.
you'll be happy enough with this. It is nice that like late game, I think this is going to be pretty good at just making sure you're always hitting gas.
Yeah, I think so too. It's not the most premium of 2s on 2, but it's a fine one if you need it. And we were talking about the idea of when you have a lot of valiant creatures, you're going to be targeting the best effects. But you're also sometimes going to want varied effects, right? Sometimes you want to tap down their thing. Sometimes you want to pump your team. Sometimes those things aren't going to be good enough, and you need to filter for more action. Find your rare, or find your removal spell. And so you're going to be targeting
Sometimes
this
you have a short bow and you get to do it all.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is like a C minus?
C minus, yeah. I would give C minus to Whisker Quill Scribe. Agate Assault. This is 2 in a red for sorcery. Deals 4 to target creature. If that creature would die, exile it instead. Or you can exile target artifact.
This thing seems fine.
Yeah.
Like 4 damage kills almost everything in this set, notably.
Sorcery speed. Definitely a knock. I think it's just like a C.
Like a C, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kindle Spark Duo. Interested to hear what you have to say about this one. I think it's probably not going to be great things. 2 in a red for a 1/3. The duo is Lizard and Otter. Tap it to deal 1 damage to target opponent. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you untap the duo. So it's a what's the card from previous sets? It was in Midnight Hunt and the Innistrad set before it. Thermo Alchemist. That's the one. This is like Thermo Alchemist, but costs a whole mana more.
Whole mana more, but in exchange you get 2 types.
Mm-hmm. And a power.
Yeah, so when you first started talking about the duos, I said the white 1-drop was the second worst one. And this is my vote for the worst one.
Yeah, unfortunately. They're really afraid of Thermo Alchemist. they really don't want Thermo Alchemist to be the thing, but people love Thermo Alchemist. Just give us Thermo Alchemist, Wadsey. Yeah.
You could definitely add a point of stats to this and it would still be like totally fine.
I think a 1/4 would make the card perfectly playable, actually.
Either way, 1/4
Yeah.
or 2/3. Like you could either way.
Yeah.
1/3 is very small for something like this.
Hell, even 0/4 might be better, Like,
yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the 0/4 in WoW, and that even had combos with Curiosity, and it still wasn't that good.
so you want to,
So
like a D?
like a D, yeah.
All right. Unfortunate. Roughshod Duo, another duo here. 2 in a red for a 3/2 trample. The duo is Mouse and Raccoon. Whenever you expend 4, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. So forces through your big green things and gives you a value trigger.
And perfectly good in red black as well. So
Yeah,
another raccoon card that's not going to go to the red green player.
unfortunately. But this is a solid one. I like a lot of
Yeah,
things about it. Plays all the tricks in multiple ways because it gives you, tricks. Play a 2/4, cast a trick during combat, get to trigger this, trample. Obviously, you're going to want to target other things a lot of the time to give, spread trample around because this already has trample. But I like it. I think
yeah, I think C plus.
I'm just going to give it a C, I think. But do you want to give a C
C?
plus for
Okay.
like the type flexibility?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
this card's just good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll stick with my C, but I do like it.
It is annoying that so I mean a lot of the stuff is well designed in here, but I do wish that more of the mechanics were less rewarding things that you're already winning the game for. Like
Yeah.
I would rather have benefits be to the person who are stumbling and falling behind. Like expend 4 really rewards the people who A curve out and hit their fourth land drop on turn 4 and hit the curve of 1, 2, 3, 4, and B are on the play. So like I'd prefer if there was less of that kind of thing, and even like the lizards deck, like getting in damage, you want to be on the play, you want to curve out as best as you can. So
Yeah.
I do have some concerns for the long, like for the people who play a ton of Magic, draft all the time. I do think there's going to be some concerns for the long-term replayability of this set, and that's honestly you talked about at the end of Black. You talked about looking forward to figuring out the puzzle with some of the decks,
Mm-hmm.
and this is my I'm ranting here,
Yeah,
but
no, please. We love it.
bear with me, yeah. So I do think that the whole 17 lands data that's been provided to people has really taken away some of the replayability of the format because people don't get that self-discovery moment of figuring out if a certain type of deck is good or not.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Because some of the old formats that boomers talk about being really good, it's when late into a format there was like a deck that was discovered that kind of came out of nowhere that only the people in the know kind of found out about, and then it slowly made its whispers through the community, that type of thing. And you just don't get stuff like that anymore.
Yeah, spider spawning in Innistrad is like the quintessential example of that, right? Where that wasn't a deck people knew about for a few weeks.
Or like Rise of Eldrazi, there was
Mm-hmm.
tons of examples of decks that like the Goblin Bombardment decks, or like the Blood Throne Vampire, whatever it is, Goblin Tunneler decks, and those just get figured out on like day 2 at this point.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, 17 Lines is great. I love the service they provide, but I would prefer if they didn't exist. Obviously, I'm biased because
Ooh.
I've got a lot of expertise in figuring out formats pretty quickly on my own, so of course it benefits me. But I do think it'd be those moments of self-discovery that we're having now when we're talking about the cards in a vacuum and theorizing on all this. You lose out on a lot of that joy.
Yep. And I think a comment that kind of encapsulates all of that is somebody in chat here saying players will optimize out the fun if given the opportunity. And I think that there's definitely hints of that happening with 17 lands being a thing. And like I agree with what Mark says. I love 17 lands, but it's not purely good. There are some cons associated with it for sure. All right, anyways, back to our limited set review that's already gone in 4.5 hours. We've got Alania's Pathmaker up next. This is 3 in a red for a 4/2 Otter Wizard. When it ETBs, you exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You can play that card.
Yeah, this is like we thought Wolverine was going to be good in OTJ, and I think this is better.
Yeah, there is such a big difference. We saw this in Modern Horizons 2, or sorry, 3. Between end of turn and end of your next turn, that window's just feels massive, honestly. So you're going to most of the time just be like, all right, I'm happy to cast the card I play off of this, all right, that I exile off this next turn. There's going to be some situations where you don't get to. It's not the absolute end of the world, and when you do get to do the thing, it's great.
The other two major things comparing this to the Wolverine are A, the fact that you get the body to block with right away and attack the next turn, and B, the fact that the curves, I keep talking about this, the curves in this set are typically going to be pretty low,
Mm-hmm.
so you're almost never going to miss on this thing.
Yeah. What do you want to give this? I think I intuitively would give it a C plus, but I could
I
see
was
it
going to go
being
up to B minus.
yeah. I was gonna say I could see it being a B minus level card. I'll stick at the C plus, but I do like the card. Next up, we've got frilled spark shooter. 3 in a red for a lizard. It's a 3/3 reach menace. And it gets +1/+1. Enters with a +1/+1 counter on it if an opponent lost life this turn.
Yeah, reach is a weird one on this,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're already dealing them damage, chances are you want to be killing them more, and menace is good for that. It's okay.
Yeah, it's
Like
just okay.
a lot more. The fact that there's another common that we just saw that you want way more is a bit of a ding on this.
Yeah, I think I would just give this like a. I'm going between D minus or D plus and C minus, and I think I probably am more in the D plus camp. I just think there's gonna be better cards to put in your deck.
I'll go C minus on
Okay.
this. And it's specifically in lizards, right?
Sure.
Like the type and the fact that you can trigger it and the
Mm-hmm.
menace, I think, add up to enough.
Conduct Electricity is up next. 4 in a red for a instant. Deals 6 damage to target creature and 2 damage to up to 1 target token. So we just saw this in OTJ. Trick Shot. Same card.
Yeah, and I really wish it was like 4 mana for 4+2 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you don't need the 5th and 6th damage in 99% of the cases.
No, I believe that 6 point of damage there is a play booster thing. They said they wanted to give red more answers to like the giant green bombs, basically. So that's why it's divided that way.
I'm just disappointed because I think
Yeah,
this
no, I
card
agree.
could have been better than Trick Shot, and with it as is, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's almost as bad as Trick Shot.
Almost because there's more tokens in this set is I think the reason.
Yeah,
Right?
I think
Yeah.
like well, Offspring and Bunnies, there's slightly more compared to the number of mercenaries that we had from OTJ, but also OTJ was an extremely high power set, and red was one of the worst colors. So you're already starting off at a better base level for this. And picking off 2 things is going to be okay, but this is the type of thing where you're assuming like the Otters deck wants it, but it just doesn't catch you up. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna be negative tempo on this a
Uh-huh.
lot of the time.
It's really funny that apparently it's like the difference between this and Trick Shot is that the 6 damage can target, like you can target the same thing, so you can kill a 8 toughness token if that ever happens.
Yeah, I'd like to see the screenshot of
Yeah.
where that's rolling. That'd be sweet.
So we're gonna give this a D, right? D plus maybe.
Yeah, D plus, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Blacksmith's Talent. This is a uncommon. Cheap cards once again. It's a class enchantment, and it's got a 1 mana, so single red mana. The first level, when it enters the battlefield, you make a colorless equipment artifact named Sword. With a crit creature gets +1/+1 and equipped for 2. Level 2, 2 in a red to level up. At the beginning of combat on your turn, attach target equipment you control to up to 1 target creature you control. Level 3, level up for 4 mana. During your turn, equipped creatures you control have double strike and haste. Really interesting, actually.
Really interesting. 'Cause
Yeah.
it seems kind of bad, and then you think about it, like if you just go this into 2-drop into level, obviously it's a glass cannon and all your eggs are in one basket, but you have a real like threatening board at that point because every creature you come in is like +1/+1 and double strike and haste.
Yeah, I think for your Valiant decks, the 1 mana short sword that costs 2, I think, or sorry, 2 to equip. I don't think that would be an unplayable card. It would be one of the lesser cards in your deck for sure, but it wouldn't be terrible. Because remember, equip does trigger Valiant.
Well, you almost never want to equip it for 2 mana.
No, exactly. But if you pay 3 once, you get to do it every single turn,
Yeah.
which is a big deal. I don't even think it's that glass cannon-y. I mean, it's glass cannon in the sense that, like, if you're just going all in and, like, I'm turbo leveling this up and trying to get there, yeah, it is. But I don't think you have to look at it that way. I think you can just kind of pay the installments when it's good for you.
I'm still not convinced. What do you want to grade this?
Yeah, this is. I gotta say, the class enchantments this time, they did a really good job of not making them obvious whether they're good or bad.
Until we get to the green ones.
Yeah, the green one bucks that trend a little bit. I agree. I'm gonna give this one a C plus. I think that might be a bit of a hot take, but I think that in the Valiant decks, you're gonna really want this. I like look at it this way. Instead of this being a class enchantment, just imagine this saying like it's a 1 mana +1/+1 equipment that you can equip 2 or pay the equip 3 once, and then you get to equip it for free each turn.
Yeah, okay. I'm lower than you. I was gonna go between D plus and C minus, and I'll go C minus just so I don't seem way too far off from you.
I think it's a fine spread. You give it a C minus, I give it a C plus.
Yeah.
And I want to specify it's a synergy C plus for Valiant decks, but yeah, I would totally agree that it's an F if you have no Valiant. So that maybe it's even just like a red white gold card.
Yeah. I'm assuming that you're just playing it in red white
Right.
as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, we'll see. I
Okay.
can see either of us being completely wrong. Next up is Heartfire Hero. This is a single red mana for a 1/1 mouse soldier. Its Valiant ability is you put a counter on it. It's pretty nice. When it dies, it deals its damage equal to its power to each opponent. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not likely to have attacks in the first couple turns because there's not a lot of ways to get free Valiant triggers at like such low mana unless you're willing to spend a card on it. Well, actually, maybe that's not even true. Maybe you just attack and then represent the combat trick, and if they eat the combat trick, you're left with something behind. So maybe that's not even true.
No, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, maybe this card's just good.
Yeah, I think this card is just good. Like,
okay, I was gonna like temper that a little bit, but maybe it is just good.
I think out of all the 1-drops we've seen for the Valiant deck, this is the best of the bunch.
Like, it's better than the double mouse that pumps everything?
That's a good point. That one might be better. Unsure. But
I don't think it's better than that. But I could see it. Like, I think it's like a C plus.
Yeah, C plus. I like C plus for Heartfire Hero.
Okay.
Cool. Blooming Blast is a 2-mana instant, 1 red. Gift a treasure is the gift thing here. It deals 2 damage to target creature, and if a gift was promised, it deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. So Searing Blaze-esque.
Right, so there's some tension with this, because you definitely gift it if your opponent's at 3 life or less.
Yeah.
But if they're at more than, like, 10, you probably don't want to gift them the treasure.
No,
unless
agree.
you have, like, a clear path to what the end of the game is going to be. So I think most of the time it's going to be just 2 mana, 2 damage, which is not great.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's overcosted for what the main output's going to be. So it's like fine, like
a C?
Yeah, like a C. I think. What percentage of games? I know this is like a totally unfair question, but what percentage of games do you foresee kicking this, gifting a treasure?
Well, you're probably going to want to just play your creatures on the first few turns of the game to get in the damage. And then late on, your opponent, like a lot of the rares are like 1 and 2 drops still, so there's still going to be relevant targets for this late in the game.
Agree.
So I would guess that you're going to gift a treasure like a quarter to a third of the time.
That sounds about right to me. And that if you're doing it that much, which I think that's like a good amount, can't knock it too much for being understated.
No.
So I think just a C. Just a C for Blooming Blast sounds about right. It is a weird one. Yeah.
And a good gift card for the potential white X.
Ah, yes.
Deck.
Indeed. Yeah, maybe that's the multicolor deck of the format. Interesting. Brazen Collector is up next. This is 1 red for yet another raccoon that other people are going to poach. It's
Mhm.
1 red for a 2/1 first striker. And when it attacks, you add a red, and until your end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Great card.
Yeah, so it lets you expend 4 on turn 3 again.
Wow. Yeah. And just just casting this on 2, your opponent won't be able to block it almost ever. And then just double spelling with 2/2s, or like you said, playing a 4. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, it's kind of like that Horn Stoneseeker from Brothers War almost.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. I would give Brazen Collector a B.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, very flexible too.
First Strike is just such a good ability.
Mm-hmm. Coruscation Mage. Gonna have to look up what that means later. 1 red for a 2/2. It's an otter. It's got Offspring for 2 mana. And the ability is when you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent.
We see a reasonably statted otter.
Yeah.
This thing is totally fine, but it's not amazing. But it's fine.
Fine plus even. I think this is probably the best reason, aside from that blue uncommon that flashes back things. This is the best spells payoff we've seen, correct?
Yes, but like if you're not attacking or blocking with this,
Well, you will. Like, you're going to cast bounce spells, to cast removal spells, get in. I think you're going to attack and block with it. Or at least attack with it.
okay, it's maybe maybe. I'm still not well. Okay, are you high? I was still gonna give this like a C. Are you higher than that?
Yeah, just a little bit. I was going to give it a C plus.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this effect is giving Offspring to this kind of effect, I think, is really good. Like, I think this is going to kill your opponent quite quickly if they don't answer it.
Yeah, I guess even like the red white decks can have a lot of spells, like
yeah.
the mouse cycle trigger and combat tricks and.
Mhm.
So because I was thinking like, my thought was you're playing blue red, you need something to survive, and this isn't going to help you survive. But this might just be better in non-blue red decks.
That could be the case too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll join you on C plus.
Yeah, it is. Somebody in chat says it expends 4, which I think is just like, it is true. It does expend 4, and Offspring helps you expend mana, like we mentioned. But it's one of those things, just like every single Magic card helps you expend. Next up, we got Flame Cash Gecko. This is a cool card. 1 red for a 2/2. It's a lizard. When it enters, if an opponent lost life this turn, you add black red. Also has an ability, 1 red, discard a card, draw a card.
Yeah, I like this thing.
That's something we never really see. Just an ability that on a creature you can just keep, like, no tap, no nothing. I mean, it's 2 mana, of course, but really helps you churn through your deck if you're, if you've run out of action.
It's also just like turn 1, play your menace thing. Turn 2, play this and the 1/3 that drains. Like, you're just flying out of the gates.
Yeah. Yeah, this is strong. Like, even outside of that, I think pretty often you're just gonna go, like, on turn 2, let's just say, you attack, your opponent goes, okay, no blocks. You cast this in a 3-drop. Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would give a B.
And then late game it gives you a mana sink. Like, notably the abilities don't work towards expend, but it does give you a mana. Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
The best threshold card is in red. Yeah, this is the threshold card we needed.
It's true. I'm gonna give it a B minus. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay, sweet. Hoarder's Overflow is a odd card. It's 1 red for an enchantment. When it enters or when you expend 4, put a stash counter on it. Has the ability 1 red to sack it, discard your hand, then draw cards equal to the number of stash counters on Hoarder's Overflow.
This is the threshold card.
Yeah. Okay, we're brewing here. Mark, we're brewing on the spot. We've got a Grixis Threshold deck. You heard it here first, folks. That's how you do it.
Oh man, yeah. This card, so it spots you the first one, which is nice. But I think there's better ways to turn your late game into doing something more interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. You don't want to play it early. Like, you just don't
No.
play this on. This seems like a commander card to me. Like, it seems like it's designed mostly for the commander players.
So is this going as low as an F?
I
Probably
I
not.
think it's not quite there, but it's real close.
Okay. Are we going D minus?
Yeah, but
Okay.
that might even be generous. I can see this having just like absolutely horrendous horrendous stats. I don't think you do want to play it early because you want to be playing a creature. You want to be affecting the board. You want to be attacking and blocking, right? I don't know. I think your prospects for winning a game are just better if you cast a 2/2 most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Playful Shove. Here's a nice clean one. 1 and a red for a sorcery. It deals 1 damage to any target and you draw a card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
It's pretty good. Lots of 1 toughness creatures running around in this set. If you get to snipe one and draw a card, that's amazing. And if it's ever terrible, which I doubt it'll be terrible, you can kill an offspring token. You can just go to face and cycle it.
You can even go to your own face if you need to trigger your bats.
That is true. Yeah, your red-black bat deck. It's sorcery though.
It'll
Yeah,
come
that's
up
fine.
once. You'll see. It'll come up.
It's not a big deal that it's sorcery. Like draw a card is a huge deal. I give Playful Shove a C+.
Yeah, it's like a flick a coin kind of, right?
Yeah, Flip Coin. Good comparison. Although, yeah, sorcery.
Sorcery and no treasure, cost 2 mana, but same idea.
Rabid Gnaw up next. 1 and a red for an instant. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of the turn. Then it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So red gets a bite here. And not quite clear shotty, because it's not going to win a combat very often and kill something. But it's a Valiant Enabler. Pretty good.
Great art.
Yeah, great art.
Yeah, this card, like this, it's might not quite be clear shot, but it also is only 2/3 the amount of mana. This card's amazing, right? Like,
yeah, it's 2 mana. There was a card, Huatli's Final Strike, right? From Ixalan. Like, that's just this, but 1 mana less.
yeah.
Very good. I would
Is
give.
this like a B plus?
Yeah, I think it's very close to, if not. Like, I was going to give it a B.
I think I'm gonna go B plus. I think this card's amazing.
Yeah, I think so. I think with Valiant in the equation, I'm into it. Nice. That's great.
Okay.
Harnesser of Storms is up next. 2 and a red for a 1/4 Otter Wizard. Whenever you cast your first non-creature or Otter spell, exile the top card of your library. You can play that until end of turn, but it only triggers once per turn.
Yeah. I think it needed a 5th point of toughness.
Yeah, or you can cast it on your next turn, or like multiple things that would really give me some confidence in it.
If you don't hit a land, like what are the chances that you have a cheap enough spell that you're still going to be able to cast something off this?
Yeah, not too likely.
Like if you're casting an otter spell and you're are you not tapping out for that? Because you can't plan on what you're going to hit, right? Like you don't know how much mana you need to leave up.
It might be more of a just like you view this as, okay, it's a 1/4 early, and then on turn 5, 6, 7, you start drawing cards off of it.
I'm pretty low on this.
I'm not out on it though. I think it's still a fine card. Like I think it. Sorry, fine might not be the greatest descriptor. I'll give you a grade. I'm gonna give this a C-.
I'm gonna go D plus.
Okay.
I think it's just bad.
I think it's not gonna be that hard to draw a card off of it over the course of the game. That's why I'm giving it that grade.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. We got Valley Rally up next. 3 mana, 2 and a red for an instant. Gift of Food is the gift cost here. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. But if the gift was promised, target creature you control gains first strike until end of turn.
Yeah, that's more relevant than I think people realize.
I
Because
agree.
it's basically it's save your best creature at that point.
Yeah, this is kind of funny because the way some people were putting it earlier in chat for the gift cards were, well, if it's not the end of the game, if you're not ending the game, then you don't gift it. But you expressly don't care if like you don't want to cast this at the end of the game because the purpose of this is to, or sorry, you don't want to gift it at the end of the game because the purpose is to have your creature survive.
Right, right. Well, it could like if it's ending the game, you don't need to gift it, right? Like if it's
Yeah,
just
that's my point. Yeah. Sorry, I was unclear about that. Your deck needs a. Well, I was gonna say it needs a go wide element to it, but maybe you don't. Like maybe it's just sort of, in the same sense of the the white one that pumps the team's cries too, where sometimes you just cast it in the mid game and it's fine because you win a combat and push some damage.
yeah, like well in red white the first strike also triggers Valiant.
Mm-hmm.
In red black, I think you're gonna just be like alphaing every turn anyways.
Yeah, you have a lot of menace in red black, makes this effect better.
Yeah, like red blue obviously doesn't want this, and then red green probably doesn't, but I could see it in red white and red black.
Yeah, I don't love it still. Like I think it's like a C
C
minus
minus?
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
C minus in those decks.
Okay.
What do we have next?
Next we have Wildfire Howl. 1 red for a sorcery. Deals 2 damage to each creature. You can also gift a card if the gift was promised. Instead, deals 1 damage to any target and 2 damage to each creature.
That's interesting. I don't think this is a card we generally want to play. Like what deck would you want this in? And when would you like when you gift it, it's because you're killing a 3 toughness creature, but like I don't think that's often going to be a good exchange for you.
It's like blue red, isn't it? Probably.
I guess, but like so much of blue red is like casting a cheap prowess creature. Like I think your blue red deck needs to cast creatures early on to function. It's not like a blue red spell deck where you just cast a bunch of spell and then some big spell payoff. Your payoffs are creatures.
Yeah, but you can play them after wrathing the board potentially.
Yeah, so you're just saying like what they go 1, 2, 3, or like 2, 3, and you just cast this.
Yeah, I'm not super high on this,
Okay.
but I like there's enough small creatures that I think this could like especially in best of 3, I think this could be pretty good. Like there's going to be boards full like just think of the creature types. They're all mostly tiny like mice, rats, frogs, even some of the birds. Like there's a lot of very small creatures in this format.
The red 2 damage sweeper usually sucks, but I agree it's going to be better in this set than it would in others. I'm just not sure how much to adjust it by. That's kind of all.
I'll just probably go D plus actually.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna either say sideboard or somewhere in the D range, so I'll join a D plus.
Okay.
Brambleguard Captain. 3 in a red for a 2/3 mouse soldier. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is Brambleguard Captain's power. So enter the battlefield basically has a trigger. Like you get to do this right away. Helps your small creatures not exactly attack that much better in the early game because usually I think they'll just be able to trade off. But if your opponent stumbles a little bit, this will push some extra damage. If you've got a first striker, it's really good.
If you pump this up, it boosts by even more.
Sure, yeah. You could on the next turn attack with this as a 4/3. I think it's yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, solid in the same 2 decks, right? Like red white and red black.
Yes, of course, Valiant. Yeah, just to spell that out. Yeah, I would give Brambleguard Captain a C plus. I think.
C+, I was gonna go C.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cool. Teapot Slinger up next. Funny card. 3 in a red for a 3/4 menace. It's a raccoon. Whenever you expend 4, it deals 2 damage to each opponent.
Yeah, it's okay. Nothing special.
Yeah, very like kind of reads like a common to me.
Yeah, like C minus.
Minus. Yeah. I just give it a C minus.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem nothing too exciting. This one though,
Right.
This is a good one. Quake Tusk Boar. 3 red for a 5/5. Reach, trample, haste. Yes, please.
No types.
No
of
types.
course.
Yeah, that tells you it's good. No types.
Yeah.
Yeah, just smash you for 5. 5/5. The thing is, this is very similar to a card we saw way back in original Ixalan, Charging Monstrosaur, which is just this, but single pipped and no reach. Card was very, very good because what happens often is the first time you hit with this, or you cast an attack, they're not going to have a good block, almost ever. So they're going to take 5 immediately, and if they have a removal spell, sure, they've taken 5, they clean it up, fine. If they don't, they're like, I guess I double block this because I can't just keep taking 5. And then obviously we know when your opponent double blocks, that's it's never a good sign for them. Terrible things happen when you double block. Card's good. Yeah, I would give Quake Test Boar a B.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's definitely a B.
Simple but effective. Reptilian Recruiter.
Boar.
Really cool card here too. 3 red for a 4/2 trample. It's a lizard. When it enters the battlefield, choose target creature. If that creature's power is 2 or less, or if you control another lizard, gain control of that creature until end of turn. Untap it to gains haste. So, takes a small thing no matter what, and if you've got other lizards, you can take whatever.
Yeah, I have a tough time with this. Because it's only, like, it's an extremely aggressive card.
Yes.
But is it the curve topper you want in your aggro deck? Like, maybe. Not as good as the previous card, but still maybe.
For sure. I think this is going to be fine in any red deck and very good in a red-black deck.
By any red deck, you mean not blue-red?
Yeah. I would agree with that. And there's no sacrifice stuff in this. Then it's actually very, very low on sacrifice stuff, so you're not going to be steel sacking very often,
right.
if ever. What do you want to give this? I feel like I've been given the initial grade pretty often. What's your initial grade?
I'm gonna give this. I'm between C and C minus, and I think I'll just give it a C.
Yeah, I'll go C plus. I'm a fan of this one, but we shall see. And that's gonna bring us to green. So before we get to green, final thoughts on red.
Yeah, not nearly as much removal in red compared to black, eh?
Ooh, your Canadian's showing, eh? It's true. Yeah, a distinct, like I mentioned, there's no shock. There's, I think, 2 at common, right? The deal 3 and the deal 6 plus 2?
Yeah, but the 6 plus 2 doesn't count.
No, totally. So, Lily interaction.
There's a deal 4 sorcery.
Sure, sorry, forgot about that.
That's the second one.
And that one's also, like, fine. Nothing special.
Much better than the 5-mana one, though.
But its creatures are pretty good. I think its 2 drops are good. Its expensive cards are good. Maybe the stuff in the middle lacks a little bit, but I like the cheap stuff in the top end stuff.
Yeah, I guess it's like black had a ton of uncommon removal spells, and red's doesn't really have like a great uncommon burn spell.
No, it's got the deal 2 plus deal 3.
Yeah, but that's for 2 mana.
Yeah.
And then it has deal 1. And that's kind of it, right?
Overall, a solid color, though.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that you have blue-red prowess.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And your cheap removal spell aren't the red cards, it's the black cards.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, it's like the threshold problem. The red cards... All the color pie is jumbled in this set. The best threshold enablers are red. The best spell enablers are black. Yeah, maybe we'll see some red-black threshold decks and some blue-red or black-red spells decks or something. We shall see. All right.
The red has the bite, but that's like your like low creature blue-red prowess otter deck.
That is
not
true.
going to be able to take advantage of that as much as the other colors will.
Still going to be a deal 3 with a 1/1 prowess creature, right?
Right, but you need you're often only going to have one creature on the board. And if you're trading with it, then it could be awkward. So yeah. Anyways.